Warning, to all people of all countries. There are in Quran, Muslims God book, some verses, approved magic force existence like, so the witches will be gathered for a certain day, and say to the people, do you also gather? If the wizards won, follow them. Clearly the presence of magic is expressed, and the magic of our time is very different, and it is in hands of who those are only looking for lust and power. Dictatorial governments like the Islamic Republic of Iran use spells to control people for their survival. Clearly, the magic tool of this time is very close and ordinary than that which can be doubted. Today's most important magic tools include television and news media produce programs to control minds of people uninterrupted. All people from young to old are covering by TVs and news medias. There are many fake channels from Islamic Republic of Iran side, under name of entertainment and news. Even opponents against the itself fakers exist in social networks is next-level magic of regime, to control people's thoughts as well. With a glance at the Iranian TV can be understood most of the programs that are produced to bring down the great goals of human life to convert to humor and sexual and animal desires. Programs production in the Iran main axes are banal issues and just for lack of thinking are very massive, and at the same time, use the sacred potential of Islam and 8 years of war in such a way protect and institutionalize the government on a sacred layer. So if someone criticize the government, firstly, people are criticizing him because this is an insult to the something sacred. Targeted news and programs that reduce the logic of human thoughts and expands the unreasonable terrorist acts under holy orders. Disappointment of the people for stand against irrational behavior of the regime is the main other targets of these programs. Iran regime's various channels that only provide scoff and joke from big problems that must to fight with them. Turn fighting and standing to laugh and ridicule for keep the revolutionary energy of the people down. Bring down the level of life of the people of Iran including cultural and economic. It's all about getting Iranian people involved with each other to be able to continue keep people's thoughts apart and cause the lack of unity among the people. Everyone knows that Iran is rich in mineral and oil resources. Iran is a rich country, but in reality, people live in bad economic conditions in poverty. So where going the wealth of the Iran to? The Islamic Republic Iran is like a wolf in a sheepskin dress. Talks about peace and reconciliation to all other countries, but behind the scenes is not only the financial provider of terrorist groups around the world, also doing barbaric behavior against all intellectual and religious opposing groups inside Iran. The principles of their thinking is turning the world into ruins and rule over the ruins of the world. And inside by destroying his own opponents in any way possible, including Wahhabis, dervishes, Sunni, and so on, tries to keep alive those who speak only of praise and senate of the Iran regime. An Iran regime themselves under the holy religion is busy to corruption, prostitution, lust and robbery. And those who seek knowledge and understand the truth, caught up in other layers of this magic. Those who think they have been emancipated from the Iranian regime by not looking at TVs inside the country. In the second trap, there are satellite networks lined up with the same magic. As you watch, you see all the media or opposition that are at first sight against the regime and chant against it. In extreme cases, they saved the regime by preventing violence against the regime. They are safety valves to keep this Iran rule of oppression and corruption alive. In the case of people who have begun to fight against oppression and corruption, mostly frustrated with marginalizing and disappointing people by fake opposition or fake channels that guided by the Iran regime, that makes survive regime after about 40 years has passed. The bitter realities life in Iran are very painful. The Iran regime has turned Iranians into gladiators who doing anything, even kill each other for a bunch of bread. by creating a culture of several thousand years ago. The high rates of suicide and street murders and strife that lead to death and defect that never been announced by Iran regime medias and TVs. High rates of litigation and a very long turnaround because of the crowd, extensive corruption in the administrative system. Execution allotting the high number of prisoners under the financial debt of political opposition are in prisons. Existence high rates of road accidents, non-responsibility in the economic and welfare state of the people, the prevalence of depression and anger in over 80% of the population of Iran. Non-rebuilding the war-torn areas in the war against Iraq. All against spending on building mosques and religious places with walls of gold in other countries that do not solve the Iranians' problems. Iran regime just pay for spread radical religious thoughts, not pay for any other. Investing in a variety of long-range missiles and redirects the country's wealth to spread terrorists under the headings like propaganda and religious education in the seminaries and hiring from different countries and training them the spread of chaos in all parts of the world by radical religious thoughts like Zakzaki and Isa Qasim and Hassan Nasrallah. Many advisors of the Islamic Republic of Iran have entered the countries of the world under various policies and by promoting and spreading Islamic thought in the style of the Iran regime. A recruiting forces everything represents a corrupt and dangerous state for all humanity which in the near future will bring a lot of problems to other countries. Like many countries have been chaotic heretofore. One day it comes that all countries in the world understand the reality of the terrorist propaganda by the Iran regime, which is too late. Ever now it is too late to stand up for the radical thinking of this system because the Iran regime has now built mosques in different countries and has created intellectual bases in most places. The war against humanity has begun a long time ago, but some leaders in the world do not take this seriously and do not take it as a war because the Iran regime has deceived them too. By giving them money under such contracts as airplane purchase contracts or by fake contracts under the name of petrochemicals or gas kept silent other countries in the line with cost a lot of money. And the betrayal of these politicians has led to the growth of the Iran regime's dark thoughts with high speed in the world. The authorities of the countries that oppose to attack to Iran regime undoubtedly, they have benefited from Iran's financial resources. These politicians, governments of countries are ready to kill humanity and stifle the freedom of the people because of the financial benefits that they get. They do not know that soon their people are trapped by the Iran regime with growing Islamic radical thinking in their places, killing people and ruining countries such as Iraq and Afghanistan, Yemen and Syria. To promote terrorist ideas to chaos countries in the Persian Gulf region is one of the small crimes of the Iran regime's ideological rebellion in the world that is not afraid of doing it. If the world would not do anything under these circumstances, the Iran regime will continue with this trend to expand its ideology and eventually surround the whole world. Certainly, the world will be there for suicide attacks to enter paradise or for Islamic radicals terrorists. These thoughts will act more powerful than any weapon, and subsequently the world will become ruinous. This is a warning to all people from all over the world, warning that terrorist thoughts in your home sooner or later will happen by Iran regime. If you do not stop this wolf, it will take the world soon. The dictatorship of Iran has prevented people from knowing by lowers the level of culture of the people and governs on it in the style of thousands of years ago dictatorship and kept Iranian people between the magic of their media. We are Iranians and we understand these issues very well and we have seen them closely, have been very oppositional apparently during 40 years of Iran regime life. They have been opposed to Iran regime, but indeed they have failed and even strengthened the Iran regime. There are many fake opponents against regime which made by the itself regime. examples of which very clear can see their relationship with the separate Iran regime. Networks such as BBC Persian and Voice of America, along with opposition such as Reza Pahlavi, like Iran regime, complain of anti-regime movements in Iran instead of cooperating with the anti-regime movements of Iran and against the movements and challenges that are being faced by the true opposition like Restart, which has put the Iran regime under pressure by informing people. In the meantime, the actual Restart opposition has changed the style of the Iran regime game by using practical challenges unlike other fake opposition, so that the Iran regime does not dare to talk to Restart opposition publicly, because then the uninformed people will join the ranks of millions of Reuters